Jamie from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today a buzzing by with Lawn Fawn's old and new Lawn Fawn Fab 5 Hop and Giveaway. So I'm using that new honeycomb add-on, that honeycomb backdrop, the new inside messages. I'm going to be using the Lawn Fawn High 5, which to me is an old set, but to a lot of people it is a new set. And that free with purchased gift that came with your order from Lawn Fawn directly, and then a couple of older things. So I will add those in as we go here. So to start, I am just ink blending on a panel. My cardstock here is actually marker paper from Ohuhu. I like it for blending on it. It gives a fairly good smooth blend, and price point, it's fairly cheap. I bought the largest one available so I can cut them a little bit bigger than A2 and, you know, be able to cut down my size if I still wanted A2, but cut it down a little bit with, you know, so you can pick and choose what part of the background looks the best, right? So I am coming in with some Brutus Monroe aqua pigments in yellow frost. It's really clear, but when it hits the light, it has a yellow hint to it. I did the yellow because, you know, honey. So I'm going to clean up my work surface. I am going to go through a lot of this super fast, especially when it comes to the ink blending stuff. I'm sorry if you are new to ink blending and you want to watch that a little bit slower. Please feel free to mute me and not listen to me in, you know, slow-mo and watch it a little bit slower. I tried something new with this one for my interactive, and so it takes a little bit more time. This card in total was probably about 4 hours from start to finish, and so cutting down and doing editing on this one was not easy to get it into, you know, my hop guidelines, because I don't like them to go over 20 too much for a hop, and so I cut this one down as much as I could. And I felt like I cut it a lot. Anyways, so for that hop, we are the Lawn Fawn Fab 5. Just a group of us crafty YouTube ladies that got together and did one. I think last fall was our first one after one of the Lawn Fawn releases, and we've had a great time with it. So up for grabs, Lawn Fawn is sponsoring us with a $25 gift card to the Lawn Fawn shop. So please make sure to leave a comment below, even if you don't get the whole video watched. I understand. And leave a comment below. So just say hi. Let's see. What was your favorite thing from the new release, if you got anything? Did you get the High 5 kit that everybody wanted last year that they didn't get, or did you already have the High 5 kit and so you didn't need a whole lot? I personally love the little bees, but I loved them last year. I love the flying mice on airplanes. It's one of my faves. So you will definitely be seeing some of those cards coming up here soon. Alright, so back to the card. Anyways, so I wanted, when I'm doing this one a little bit differently, and so I want to fill in that hive piece, and so I did cut out a hive for my bottom piece here, and this is a new interactive. I'm going to slow it down a little bit to help explain it a little bit better, but I'm just kind of laying out my scene, what I'm kind of thinking here. I do end up cutting my panel down. I know that I'm cutting my panel down. I just hadn't decided on how much I was cutting it down quite yet. But I'm taking the older lawn, it's not really that old, I think it was maybe their winter release, the Lawn Fawn's Pull and Pop Pull Tab interactive die. And so here is it in action. I kind of done a run through earlier. I wanted to make sure it was going to work before I decided to start this one for filming. And so it worked. I was happy. So I actually watched a video by Laura Duvall on the MFT channel. And she had done this with, I think it was a box of chocolates. But she, of course, like created her own whole pull tab mechanism. And I saw it and I was like, this is perfect for the Lawn Fawn Pull and Pop pull tab. So it needed that longer T-piece there. I'm not using the folds that actually are, made by the die. And I'm going to have to snip off the little pieces on the side there. So I will snip those off, and then I'm going to make my own score line on this one. So if that helps at all, I will explain all of my other pieces as we go. I know I missed it because I was explaining hop things, but I'll get, you caught up on my thought process on those, I guess. I was just trying to get all the things inked. I didn't get all the things inked because I constantly add things to it, but it is what it is. So I'm going to pull out my scoreboard here, and I'm going to score this at a 1/4 inch above that T-piece on traditionally what you would have done a Z-fold on that top piece. We're not going to do a Z-fold on it, and we're not going to use that backer piece or the backer bar piece that makes it pull and pop. You could definitely make this one a pull and pop pull tab. You just wouldn't get the whole effect that you get with this one, I guess. This one, I wanted it to just be like a, oh look, there's the inside. I've been wanting to do one like this for quite a while, and I had yet to see how that mechanism had worked. And so when she did hers and she hand cut it, I was like, wait a minute, that one will be perfect. So I was super pleased with, getting a second use, a new use out of an interactive die that I hadn't, thought to do before. So I am going to cut my main panel down a little bit. I'm thinking this is I'm thinking it's the largest of the small stitch stack, but it might be the second size in the stitch stack. Don't quote me on that because I don't have mine marked if they're the large stack or the small stack. Sorry. So I had inked that one piece, traced it, hand cut it out because I didn't want the hole on my piece for the base of my card piece. But I also wanted my card, my honeycomb piece or my honey hive piece to have that cool honeycomb in it. So that's where I used the stencil to create that. So my ink colors, because I forgot to tell you while I was doing them, that cloud is with the tumbled glass oxide ink. My honeycomb hive colors there are in fossilized amber, wild honey, of course, and then rusty hinge. I love that combo for a deep honey rich, it's like a rich yellowy orange honey color to me. And so I'm bringing in that new center messages mixed, it's the middle of magic messages. There we go. For that magic iris card. So using that magic iris messages for the inside of my hive. So I did remember to stamp this part before I got too far along. Yeah, I'll remember to do the other one later. So I am using some archival black ink from Ranger. I could not find my VersaFine Onyx Black, but because it is Distress Oxide, I needed to have a pigment ink to lay over the top of those oxide inks. So I'm just going to insert that little bent down piece into my pull tab slot here. And then I am going to trim down a piece of paper for a stabilizer on this one. And I end up actually redoing this stabilizer later on. I folded it too tight, so I felt it was too stiff. I actually end up adding a second one in later on further up. I didn't really know if I was going to need it to get that movement. If I needed it to move a little bit, to get kind of like the flippy flappy mechanism, like if I needed that extra little bit in there, and I really didn't. The issue with this one was I definitely needed the back, it on the actual panel to work better. So it does work well. It's just that my piece of paper isn't stiff enough, I don't think, to push it back up and down. But it actually flops back closed. You just have to I flip it towards me and then the whole thing straightens back out and goes back where it's supposed to. So I don't know if that's really how it's supposed to work, but it worked for me that way. And so once I am, okay with the looseness of this little placeholder here, I am going to move on to my next step in the card. So trying it, making sure that it's going to work. I need to get my hives done. So because these have a hole in the middle, and then of course because I have that white piece to hide on the other one, I need 2 of these hives cut out. One will be for the inside and one will be for the outside. And of course, I wanted to bring in that honeycomb piece here, so I'm just inking it up, and then I'm going to actually cut it out of using that hive dye. So hive dye, so I can get that honeycomb texture on the inside of my hive. I definitely could have just used the ink blending stencil on this one as well as, I did on the inside, but I decided I wanted something a little bit different on this one. And so I end up inking it a little bit heavier, so it's a little bit darker and has a little bit more of a contrast. And then once I am happy with that one, I am going to cover up my inside hole here. So I did the opposites so the inside one is supposed to be clouds down, so it looks like I have sad clouds on the inside, but when you flip it up, they're happy clouds, So it kind of looks like it's a see-through hive window. Does that make sense? So, and then of course I used a scrap of that extra piece from the inside one there for the outside of my hive center. And then of course just adding more ink blending in to make that a little more cohesive. All good fun. So I'm bringing in some sport tape. I'm going to add that onto both of my pieces here. Now, keep in mind when I add that front hive on, I have to be a little bit careful because I don't want it to actually stick to the bottom part of the hive. So I did come in with a little bit of just whatever was left on my brush for that white pull tab to just kind of get it to blend into the clouds a little bit better there. I am going to add some glue there. Not only is it help with, long-term stick, it helps if I'm not quite lined up, I can have a little bit of wiggle room. Now I did bring in some of those fill-in pieces that popped out of that hive background die just to help lift up that background piece and make it so didn't have like a funny bow to it, so it kind of evens out all of that. And there is that modified pull and pop pull tab die from Lawn Fawn. Isn't that cool? So it does have a little bit of a bow yet on the back, so I do end up adding a second stabilizer. Now the trick to this one, and Laura Duvall had kind of said in her video, she's like, I didn't do it, but you should do it. So it's about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch below the cut mark where that top panel rests, and that just gives it a little bit more room to actually flip it up, if that makes sense. See how it flips there? It doesn't get caught on that cut line, I guess you could say. Granted, you wouldn't have to do it in this location. You could probably put it further down on the card. I just have to be a little bit more creative getting your cut line on there, especially with using the 2 die, or the die that has the 2 holes on it for this one. It just worked well for this one because my image was going to be towards the top of the card. I'm sure I could have selectively die cut. So I'm bringing in some more of those die cut pieces that are included with that Magic Iris Honeycomb add-on die, and then inking them a little bit with some Moldon Distress Oxide ink, throwing them on a full-backed adhesive Post-it note really helps with those little pieces because, yeah, they're tiny otherwise. So I'm going to add those on with some liquid glue here. And of course, I need to add some colored images. So I did stamp and color and die cut off of camera. I did actually record it, but being for time reasons, I did not actually do it on film for this one. And there are the colors I ended up using. I just found these were a deeper, more, I don't know, a little bit darker yellow than I have done with my High Five kit color combo in the past. If you are interested in my past ones, there's actually a Hive 5 listing on my channel, or I guess it's a playlist on my channel. I did a series last summer when it came out, and I do have that ink panel, or ink panel, those Ohuhu marker blends are on my blog at InkyandScrappy.com. Just click on the little side link for Ohuhu marker blends and it will take you to that page, and you can scroll up and down. But the ones that were for the Hive 5 kit last year are on there, and you'll definitely be able to tell because I did color some of the Hive 5 images on that color chart. So of course I did not actually include, you know, when I did my other one, make sure that I actually had a sentiment on the front of my card. So I am bringing in that Buzzing By to Say from the freebie stamp set. I will have all of the stamp sets listed down below if you are interested in the names for them. And then I'm bringing in a piece of that free Lawn Fawn paper. When you order with them and you get, you know, paper that's the 6x6 that's probably a 12x12 and cut down to 6x6, you know, it always comes free in the box, and I never know what to use. You know, sometimes I don't know what to use it for. But I did bring in a piece of this beautiful pink one. I want to say it was from one of their fall sweater weather, maybe it's the sweater weather kit, maybe it's the remix one, I'm not exactly sure, but I liked that shade of pink and I thought it would go well with the honey yellow goldy color here. And so I'm adding that to my card base, and then I'm going to take in another one of those dies from that pull tab die set and do a little cut on the bottom here. So I don't need it to be lined up all the way. I don't need it to be that big on the bottom. So I'm just going to do a little bit of creative die cutting there and cut through my card base and that front piece. Doing that on a piece of top folding 4 1/4 by 11.5. Is it 11.5? No, 11-inch piece of paper. Runs through my die cut machine just fine. And then I am going to add some Big Mama foam tape to the back of my panel, avoiding that pull tab, you know, area on that one. And then I am sliding in that decorative piece over the top of my pull tab just to give it a little bit more stability and a little bit more sturdy. It worked perfectly for height-wise, so it worked good. And then, of course, I was like, you know, I need to add a little bit of a pop of pink onto the front because I just felt like that background needed to come forward somehow. And so I did bring out that fish banner die. And I cut 2 of them, could only find 1 of them, but I made it work. I did find the other one. It was right in front of my face, of course. And then I'm going to add my bees to the front and the inside of the hive, being mindful of what is going to be on the inside when I flip it up. And then, of course, I did doubles, so I have a reverse image on the inside of the little bee that is on the front on the outside. Granted, I suppose it would be upside down on the other. I don't know. Anyways, and then adding in those little banner pieces to the back part of the banner because I, you know, had it hanging over the back of the hive, and so I didn't want the back pieces to show through. And then I did cut this one down, and I don't know if I should have. I probably could have just left it as a full trail here. I'm still, you know, I didn't want it hanging out, but then I'm like, you know, if I left it hang out, it probably would have been just fine, and it have worked. My bee would have had to have a different placement, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to round that one end so it looks a little more finished there. Add that onto the inside of my hive, and then I'm going to be mindful of where the rest of my bees go. So adding them around the hive, of course, you know, because you're busy as a bee. They're always working in the hive. So I did want to have some that are hanging out on the outside before you open it so you see, you know, a bunch of bees. And let's be honest, those bees are so fast and easy to color. So, and then of course I have to bring in some distressed sickles for their wings because, you know, we need a little bit of glitter on those wings. And then because I'm so patient, I just popped up my little door thing and hoped for the best that I wouldn't smudge the glitter. Hot take, I did not smudge the glitter. I know, it's amazing. I even did the inside here while it was still wet. I'm impressed with myself. Usually it would have been smudged. So I brought in that little scrap piece from my background piece and kind of inlaid some of those hexagons. And for when this one is all done here, I'm just trimming off all of the extra pieces that are hanging out. So I hope you enjoy it. Make sure to comment below. I will have a bonus card coming out to help announce the winner of the $25 gift card. So make sure to visit Steph from World of Papercraft, Jordy from Jordy's Cards, Jessica Squirrel from Jessica's Squirrel's channel, and Kate from Kate Craft. I hope you have an amazing day, and thank you so much for joining me. Bye!